And this has been my kitchen.
Today on Cooking with SonicBlu, I'm going to teach you how to juggle potatoes. These are yellow potatoes, since we didn't have any russet potatoes, and the russet potatoes we did have, we don't have enough. But tonight, we have plenty of yellow potatoes, and what we're going to do is we're going to take 3 bags worth of potatoes, because there's 3 servings for people, so 1 bag per person. I figure that will be enough fries. We're going to make French fries. We're going to make gravy, and we got cheese. We're going to put all this together and make Canada's favorite dish, poutine. Poutine originated in Quebec, and it turned out to be a very nice treat for the French-Canadian community. But I bet none of them juggled their potatoes like this before making poutine. So, without further ado, let's get started and making our poutine. So, we're going to start by hand cutting our russet potatoes into French fries, and it helps to have one of these things. It's a easy fry cutter. See that? Let's look at that one more time. Can it be that easy? Yes, it can be that easy. Just like that. And we got to do that for all the potatoes we have in that sink. It's not going to take very long. So, I'm going to take this time to turn on our fryer. Plug it in first. Let that heat up, because making the fries is not going to take very much time. And I'm going to put my cheese aside there. Okay, it's okay if there's a little bruise here and there. It's not going to hurt anything. Okay, and if you find your potatoes have a little bruise here and there, that's okay. As long as you can still eat them, make fries out of them, you know, the good stuff. And that's what we're doing tonight, making a bunch of fries. So, having one of these things is practically a lifesaver in your kitchen if you ever want to make your own home fries, especially with russet potatoes or yellow potatoes like we're using tonight. Although sometimes it can be a little bit of a challenge.
Sometimes the potato is a little bit bigger than the cutter.
Yeah, sometimes it'll be too big for the cutter to allow, and it kind of goes along the side there. But if it's in the direct center and it's not too big to cut, then it just goes right down, and you got plenty of fries. Okay, there's a little tiny one. There we go.
Quick and easy.
Look at that. Those are all of our fries for making poutine.
And for some reason it recognized a face in the fries, the camera.
That's funny. Do you see a face in the fries, folks? Could it be the spirit of Mr. Poutine himself, the inventor of said... I don't know if his name was Poutine or not, but anyhow, we're waiting for our oil to heat up even still. So while we're doing that, let's take a good bunch of fries and just dump it right into our fry basket here. Ooh, the oil is warming up, folks. I feel the heat getting to rise. Anyway, so we're going to wait for the fries to cook up. While we're doing that, I'm going to show you what we're going to do to make our gravy. Now, last night we had fried chicken, and I'm going to use some of the crunchies that fell off of our chicken, and with some of the oil that kind of sat there. And this is still okay to use, because there's not chicken in there, folks. That's not chicken. Those are crunchies. Those are the crunchies, the coating that went onto the outside of our chicken that fell off into the oil. And that usually happens through turning and turning your chicken. You lose a lot of crunchy bits. Okay, so it doesn't take long for this to heat up. I'm putting this at a 6. It has to be on a very hot temperature. And what we're going to do is we're going to take some flour to make our gravy out of the oil that we used to fry our chicken yesterday. But you can go from scratch, and you can actually make this from scratch. I'm going to take just a regular bamboo spoon, and we're going to make a roux out of all this. And what this is going to do is all that flour is going to soak right into, we might need some more flour, but it's going to soak right into our grease there, and we're going to make us what my mom called groovy gravy, but in today's terminology, we're going to make a brown gravy. Yeah, I'm going to need more flour. That's not a roux, that's a mess. There's going to be a lot of chicken crunchies there, so maybe your gravy isn't going to have chicken crunchies in it. That's okay. It's really supposed to be a smooth gravy, but I decided that, well, chicken, crunchies from your fried chicken have always been a love of mine. Every time my mother made it, I would always sneak in and grab some crunchies from the skillet after the chicken was done. I just couldn't resist. Okay, we're going to need a little more flour because that's still not quite a roux. A roux is something that's solid. This is still liquidous. So we're going to try to make that roux as best as possible because there's a lot of oil in there, and so we're going to need a lot of flour to sort of thicken that up. And then from its roux state, we're going to slowly mix in the water. There we go. Now we're getting to a roux. That's sort of starting to look like a roux. I lost one, but that's okay. I got plenty more where that came from. Okay. I'm going to mix this together until you have the consistency of a very sloppy paste. That's what this roux is supposed to be. So you see, it's very pasty, very thick. That's your roux. So however much grease or oil you use to start off with, and like I said, you're not going to have all those chicken crunchies if you make this from the get-go. All you're going to need is to heat up some oil, make sure it's nice and hot, then you add your flour, mix it together until it thickens into what you see here. You could use a lot of oil and a lot of flour like we did here, or you could use just a little bit of oil and a little bit of flour and just kind of make however much you think you're going to need to feed your family or yourself. But this really doesn't give you a full recipe to go on. Just go by what you think you can use to fill the stomachs of your family or yourself. You can make extra and have more tomorrow, and gravy does keep a while. You can put it in the freezer, take it out, it'll be a roux again. So you put your frozen gravy into the skillet, add some more water, and to thin it out, and make sure it's very, very hot before you do that. So you put the frozen gravy in on very hot, and then once it's nice and thawed, add your water, thin it out a bit, and you just add however much you think you're going to need to get the consistency of gravy that you want. So that's that. Let's go for our measuring cup, and we're going to fill this with 4 cups of water. And we are not going to use all of it right away, like I said. We're going to use a little at a time to get our consistency proper. We might even need more than 4 cups. Who knows? But anyway, back over to our roux. And we're just going to add a little water to start us off. Maybe enough to fill the bottom of that pan. Good. That's good. Now we're going to mix it around. And then when we get to the consistency of gravy, then we're going to add our seasonings, our salt and pepper, and anything else that'll make it taste good. Cumin will make it taste like a gravy. Cumin will make it taste really good. If you have some cumin, you can throw that in there with your salt and your pepper, a little bit of garlic powder and a little bit of onion, and you got yourself a gravy to die for. That's all you really need. Maybe some paprika will do. But that's all about what you'll need. You won't need more than that. You won't need much more than that. So what you're going to do, as you add more water, you're going to try to thin out your roux back into a liquidous form. Remember, your stove has to be very hot, so I'm going to turn that up to an 8. It has to be very, very hot in order to melt down that roux and make it a gravy again. Now, you might think, this doesn't look like brown gravy. Well, it sure doesn't, because it's not cooked yet. All we did was add flour and water to grease, and chicken crunchy is what you see being mixed into our gravy. So what you do, keep adding the water and keep thinning it out. It'll thicken back up because it's going to soak right into that roux, and it's going to spread. It's going to make your roux expand. That's the whole purpose of making this into a roux in the first place. You want this to expand so that you can thin it out and it will become a gravy again. But you need to discover and know how much more water to add in order to make it a gravy again. But before you do that, you have to make a roux and then let that roux expand by slowly adding water to it. And then when you get to about halfway in, you can start adding more and more water to thin it out faster. But as long as you got that heat on hot, it has to be really, really hot, because that's going to help melt the roux. If it's on too cold, then you're never going to get this. You're never going to melt that roux down. That roux is going to stay solid for a very long time. If it's very hot, then it's going to help melt that roux. So let's take another look at our gravy and see how it's coming along. Notice that the water, which is still very evident here, is also now starting to thicken back up into that roux, helping it expand even more. So this will also help you determine how much roux to take out if you have too much roux in your skillet. And like I said, this stuff can keep in the freezer. So if you have too much roux, take some of it, like take half of it out of the skillet, put it in a freezer safe container, put it in the freezer, and then you can make more gravy later on using basically the same ingredients that you're using tonight, and you can make more and more gravy. And gravy goes a long way. It really does. And you really don't need much of anything if you have flour and water and oil. Then you can make all the gravy that you want. Okay, so now it's thickened back up into a roux again. So now add more water. And we're just going to keep doing the same process over and over again until there's less roux and more thick gravy. Now the seasoning, especially the cumin, is going to give it its brown color. And if you add a little paprika in there, you're going to come away with a reddish brown color. So, oh, and I spilled some over the side. Oops. That's okay. This can get a bit messy if you are a vigorous stirrer. And sometimes I can be quite vigorous with my stirring. So to recap the seasonings you're going to need to make your gravy taste wonderful. Salt and pepper to taste. Add some ground cumin and some paprika and a little sprinkle of thyme, and that's all you really need. Garlic powder and onion powder, you know, you can add that as well to, you know, enhance the flavor a bit. That's only up to you. I would definitely add the onion powder though, but if you could, add dehydrated onions instead. It gives you a little texture in your gravy. Okay, now take a look at our fries, and let's leave them down a little more. However crunchy you like your fries, they're going to be nice and soggy when you pour the gravy over them, but you know the consistency you like in your fries, so I'm not going to show you how to make fries, because anybody can do it. Anybody who's had his first job at fast food knows how to make fries. I will need more water.
Almost looks like potatoes.
It almost does. But that's basically just starting to become gravy. Believe it or not, that is just the midway point from going from a roux into a gravy. And what we're doing is we're using a solid spoon to push the roux down into the water to allow two things to happen. You're allowing the water to thin out the roux. You're allowing the roux to thicken back up the water. Thus, somewhere in the middle, they're going to meet and produce gravy. Right now, it's less than a roux, more like an extremely thick gravy. Let's see how good we're coming along here. And it's starting to turn into what consistency of gravy is. Once all this water is thinned out and we see the consistency of gravy that we have, we'll start adding our seasonings, and it will really, really, really start to look like and taste like gravy. As you can see, it is starting to brown up because of the heat, because of our constant stirring, and because of the chicken crunchies in there too. So now, check. Okay, good. That's very, very thick gravy. So let's go for our seasonings. We need salt. We need paprika, cumin, pepper. This is just the start of it, but you can add anything else you want in here. We're going to start with the paprika. We're going to need a lot of this. We need to turn this into a beautiful red color. And paprika is the perfect way to do it. It doesn't produce too strong of a flavor, and it's mainly for color, especially when you're making this type of gravy. It's there to turn your gravy into a nice, beautiful, reddish, brownish kind of color there. And you just watch all that red turn into like an orangish, brownish, reddish kind of mixture of color there. Okay, so now, looking at the color, this is just after paprika. And now look at the color. It's now like a very, 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 very light, orangish, tannish kind of color. Okay, so that's enough paprika. Oh good, we're still hot, we don't need to turn up. Now I'm going to add, we need quite a bit of cumin as well, so I'm going to open up the pour tab and just shake about 2 teaspoons worth of cumin to start. Smell that cumin. This is going to brown. This is going to give us its brown color and also going to give it its gravious flavor. Gravious. Is that even a word? Gravious? Gravy flavor. Gravious flavor. Like gravy. Yeah. It's a gravious flavor. I don't know if that's a word or not, folks, but take it as it comes. Okay. And now adding that cumin, it's going to mix into that gravy a nice brown color and also give that its gravy flavor. Let's add a little bit more because we have a little more color of cumin. We're going to also turn this down to a 4 so we don't get boiled over. And add another half of a teaspoon, so that's about 2.5 teaspoons of ground cumin. And this is really going to start to brown up now. And the flavor of gravy is going to really, really come out as tasting like gravy, because cumin has a very gravy-like flavor. I mean, it's just meant to go into gravy. So, there's that. Now, to ensure that your gravy doesn't taste just like cumin, we're going to add some salt and pepper to taste. This will bring out the flavor of your gravy. This will make it taste less bland, less like flour, because a lot of flour went in here, so you're going to need to add enough salt to counter the not really bitter, but the blandness of the flour. So you need to counter that flour blandness. And then you want to spice it up with some black pepper. That'll give it its bite. So add as much salt and pepper as you want, and salt and pepper can be added together, and you just stir it in together. And the reason why I say this is because you can't see the salt when it mixes in well, but you can see the pepper when it mixes in. So add your salt and pepper together. That will ensure if you can't see the pepper anymore, you can't see the salt anymore either. And salt is very, very difficult to see through that gravy, because you're looking at something that is very impossible to see in your gravy when you stir it. Okay, so salt and pepper together. When you see the peppers combined well, then you know your salt is combined well. So you use your pepper as a guide to determine how much salt you've got stirred into your gravy by watching how much pepper is distributed. So that's a little secret that I like to give out onto my viewers. Okay, so now we've still got a nice consistency of gravy. We're going to add one more splash of water to help keep its thinness and to help dissolve some of those seasonings we put in. And now, as you can see, folks, we now have brown gravy. Thanks to cumin. Thanks to that cumin, we now have brown gravy. And it's no longer a roux, it is expanded into gravy. We lost a couple of them, but that's okay. Get another load. Toss those in, give a little shake, and we'll just won't bother with those. We'll just keep an eye on our gravy. You want to keep stirring that too. So this is a constant thing. You gotta really keep your eye on your gravy. If you leave it long enough, it's going to thicken back up again. You need to stir it again. I think we can add the rest of that water now. So that took about 8 cups of water to give us the consistency that we need, and it filled up our entire skillet. No more water is going to be needed. So if we did, we'd have to take some more of that stuff out, and I think our gravy is getting to be the consistency we want. So this has now become gravy. A whole skillet full of gravy. And you know, gravy can go on anything. It can go on biscuits, it can go on potatoes, French fries, when you make your poutine. Gravy can be used with anything. You can put it over an open-faced sandwich. You can put it on anything you want. Anything you want. Sausage you can mix in. You can mix in ham if you want. Anything you want to. Gravy is, like I said, a miracle food. And you can make it basically with ingredients that you have an abundance of in your house. And it's not going to cost you much money. That is why I call gravy the miracle food. It is truly a miracle. Okay, that is perfect. Look at the consistency of that gravy. That's absolutely what we need right there. So we're going to just keep this hot. Do not turn off the heat. You want to keep this hot. You want to keep your eye on it. You want to constantly stir it. Make sure that it doesn't separate. Make sure it doesn't harden. Now, there's one ingredient I have yet to get, and that's up here. And that is, well, 2. Thyme, minced onion, 3. Garlic powder. There's 3. 3 extra seasonings I'm going to add. Minced onion, you're going to need a lot of this. You're going to need a lot of minced onion. It could not hurt. It will not hurt. This is for texture. Even though we have a lot of chicken crunchies in our gravy, this is still for texture. If you don't have chicken crunchies, then this will give you a nice texture to go along with your smooth gravy. Those seasonings get to me easily, so if you see me sneezing, no, I don't have COVID. Alright, it's just the seasoning getting into my nose. And that I don't need. So we're going to stir those onions in now. You can add actual onions if you want to, folks, too. Don't even stop at dehydrated onions. You can add real onions. You can. Make this gravy yours. Make this gravy your recipe, folks. This is your recipe. This could be your recipe. This is just the base of getting you started. You can add chili powder. You can add bell peppers. You can add anything you want. Make this gravy yours. I'm just showing you how to make it basic. But you can do anything you want to with this gravy. You can add anything you want. Okay, those onions are really mixed in well. So garlic produces a strong enough flavor. You're only going to really need maybe a half a tablespoon, or half a teaspoon rather, of garlic powder, because that's going to be a strong flavor as it is. You don't want too strong of a garlic flavor, because that's going to take away the flavor of your gravy too much. So you maybe only want a quarter teaspoon of garlic powder. I know a lot of people love their garlic, our cameraman included, but you also want to make room for the other flavors that are going to hit your gravy. Now, for the thyme.
12:24.
It's 12:24. That's the time. No, I'm talking about this time. This time. This is thyme. And what a beautiful fragrance thyme is. Oh, I love the smell of thyme. Okay, we're going to stir that thyme in, just like we did with everything else. We're going to watch it as it goes into our gravy and becomes one with the gravy. Yes, you're going to need a lot of time to become one with your gravy. And it took a lot of time mixing it too, let me tell you. Okay, now, that is good right there. Now, did we add the onion? Yes. Thyme? Yes. Salt and pepper? Yes. Cumin? Yes. Garlic powder? Yes. Paprika? Yes. That's all of our ingredients. Now, to give it a taste test. It's going to be real hot, so watch how you handle your gravy. Ouch! Now from here you can determine what your gravy is missing. I still taste a lot of flour. I don't know what my flour is missing yet. So I'm going to take another one. Ow! It is coming together, folks, but it's missing something. See, I got to go through my taste buds to see what it is lacking of. Salt. A little more salt. And since I'm adding salt, pepper to be my guide. So I'm going to add more pepper. Pepper will be my guide. Just make sure that I have that salt stirred in. Making gravy is a lot like making a sauce. You have to taste it constantly to make sure that the consistency of the flavor is exactly what you want for your gravy. And some people make it a serious nature to make their gravy, just as much as an Italian would take it seriously to make their tomato sauce. Some people take gravy making very seriously. Fries are coming out nicely, so not quite ready to come out yet. Good, because we're still trying to figure out what's missing from our gravy. Now, taking a third taste. Ooh. Oh, that's just what it needed. A little extra salt and pepper. That's perfect. And now the cameraman's going to take a taste. But you know what? I'm still not satisfied. I'm still not satisfied, folks. I am going to add one extra ingredient because I like it, because I think it needs it, and you can add this too. I'm going to add chili powder. Chili powder to give it a little kick. A little bit of a kick than pepper can give. So I'm just going to I'm going to eyeball that at about a tablespoon of chili powder. That's going to give it a kick. Alright, now we're going to stir that chili powder in.
Get a little bit of redness in there again.
Yeah, it's going to put a little bit of redness, but not by much. Not by much, because that brown is already what's the best word for that? Circumvent? No. It already covered up the red to make brown. Adding more red is going to make the brown darker and deeper. So it'll still be brown, but it's going to be a deeper brown because you got all that red in there from the get-go, and then you added all that cumin, and then all the rest of the ingredients, and it's still going to be a brown color.
Actually, you know what? Thinking about it, instead of adding water, you could add a broth, right?
Yeah. Oh, you can add broth. You can add milk.
Make it into a chicken.
You can add chicken broth, beef broth, pork broth, fish broth if you want. You can add anything you want to make your gravy. You can make milk and make sausage gravy. You can do anything you want to. There's no limits to making your gravy. I'm going to take another taste test. Ooh, nothing else. Do not touch that gravy again. Nothing else needs it. That is absolutely one of the best gravies I've ever made flavor-wise. Nothing else needs to go in it. That is absolutely 150% perfect. Okay, so now I'm going to get rid of this because we no longer need it. I'm going to check on our fries again. They look about somewhat done. I'm going to let them cook a little bit longer to reach the same consistency as these fries. We're going to cook the rest of those fries, and I'm going to show you what to do next after those fries are done. Those fries are done. Gravy will still be warmed up. In fact, I'm going to keep this hot at a 3 and constantly stir it. If it gets too thick, just add more water. Plain and simple. Look, just make sure your consistency is exactly what you want to make your poutine happen. So this is what I would like to call groovy poutine. Why groovy poutine? Because my mother named this gravy Groovy Gravy, and in honor of my mother, I would like to follow and calling this particular poutine not just traditional poutine, but groovy poutine because of the gravy we're using. We're using groovy gravy for this poutine. Now, just like with gravy, you can make your poutine with any ingredients too, as long as you have fries and cheese. Fries and cheese are two of the main ingredients for your poutine. Gravy is just one of the styles. You can also make a Mexican poutine, and instead of gravy, what we do is make a whole bunch of refried beans. And instead of cheese, well, you can add the cheese, but you can also add sour cream. Mix all that together, put that in your poutine. That's Mexican poutine. You can also make Italian poutine. Tomato sauce and French fries and cheese. Only instead of cheddar cheese, you'll use mozzarella cheese, and that will produce an Italian poutine. You can make poutine out of any flavors you want to. Just like your gravy, you can make a gravy out of anything you want to. That's the beauty part of this dish. There is no limit to what you can do. Only that of your imagination. Let your imagination go wild in the kitchen, folks, because that's what imaginations really come into play and really make the world taste oh so delicious. So, we are going to cook up the rest of our fries, make sure our gravy is still hot, and we'll come see you when it's time to go to our next step, and that's going to be making the cheese. We're not ready for that yet because we don't have the counter space for it yet, but we will once this bowl is filled up with fries. And just like that, all those fries we cut are now in this bowl, fully cooked. All right, next we're going to check our gravy because we've had this on a moderate heat, and we need to check the consistency to make sure it didn't thicken up too much. And it did just a little tiny bit, so I'm going to add, because some of the water may have cooked out of it, I'm going to add that water back in right now. Just stir it in as I go along, little bit, not too much at a time. We're just going to make this into a thinner gravy again. You notice the oil and the water are going to separate a bit because now the water is a cooler temperature, much cooler than the temperature of that oil, which is now blazing hot. So you're going to see a little tiny separation there because of the chemical reaction of introducing something cold to something so piping hot. Look at that. Separate right up. But it's going to get mixed back in because the heat of that gravy and that oil is going to incorporate with that heat of that water, and it's going to bring it right back to that temperature needed in order to make this a complete gravy again. Now, for the cheese. Cheese can be in crumbles, cubes, shredded, but I prefer cubes because you'll get more chunks of cheese in your poutine. You want chunks of cheese. You don't really want shredded because you don't want to coat the fries in cheese. You want them in chunks. So you want to place them in crumbles or in cubes like this. Just like that. Just little tiny cubes, just like that. Okay, so now I'm going to say we put all of this together on a plate and see how well we did. So, first things first, you can come over here and grab some of our unsalted fries. You can salt these if you want to. Remember, a lot of salt went into our gravy, so you can salt these fries if you want to. Just add just a little tiny bit.
You can salt if you want to.
You can leave the salt behind. And if you don't salt, well, then you're no friend of mine. Okay, so enough fries to cover that plate. And then, while that gravy is still hot, so we need to keep that hot, I'm going to take the cheese. I'm just going to kind of put the cheese over our fries. And notice that our fries may have cooled down a bit, not hot enough to allow that cheese to melt. That's where the gravy comes in, and that's why it has to be super hot. So you add as much cheese or as little cheese as you want. That's a good amount right there. And now I'm going to reach for my ladle, which is perfect for drizzling the gravy over all those beautiful fries. Keep the spoon handy because you may need to keep stirring as you're serving. And remember, the gravy can be as thin or as thick as you like. I like to coat my poutine with hot gravy. The heat from the gravy is going to help melt that cheese, and you're probably going to think your fries are probably going to be done much sooner than your gravy, much sooner than your cheese is prepared. Or if you could pre-prepare the cheese beforehand. Oh, I'm going to lose some gravy over there. I'm going to lose gravy. I'm going to lose gravy. I'm going to do it. A little bit over here couldn't hurt. Okay, that is how you make poutine. So all my Canadian friends, rally together around our kitchen, eh? We're having some Canadian food, and we're having some good old classic poutine from the province of Quebec itself. There's our poutine, but let's give it a taste. Let's taste our poutine and make sure that this is Canadian best. Grab our fork, which we could say is a Canadian fork because it's red. And so, right, is the Canadian flag, red. I'm going to take a little cheese, a little fry, and a little gravy. Cheese is melted just perfectly too. And this is traditional Canadian poutine. Mmm. The thickness from the gravy and the creaminess of the cheese go so well together. Oh, it's amazing. You definitely want to have a right recipe for gravy, but once you got it, there is no limit to what you can do. So try some poutine tonight. Have some with a little Molson Canadian and maybe even fire up some back bacon along with it. Have yourself a real traditional Canadian meal. From Cooking with SonicBlu, this is SonicBlu Darkfold saying if you're not cooking good, you're not eating good, and make sure that your gravy is perfect so that you can eat good. We're going to make French fries. Hold it. Unfortunately, I lost a hell of a lot because we didn't have any eggs, so I couldn't give the chicken a proper egg wash. I had to use water. When you use water, you weaken your coating, and so it doesn't really turn out as good as what?
We did have eggs.
We had eggs?
Look on the top shelf in the fridge.
I didn't know we had eggs. We have eggs, folks. Well, now I know we have eggs. Okay. Now I know we have eggs. So this gravy is going to be loaded with chicken scrunchies. Chicken crunchies. Scrunchies. You gotta put it in your hair. It's a scrunchie. No, chicken crunchies. Achoo, with pepper. Woohoo. Every time I work with pepper, that always happens. So if you ever have to sneeze while you're making gravy, turn your head away and sneeze that way. But of course, then that way is where all the fries are. Speaking of fries, let's get our next load going. And we lost a couple, 3. We can keep losing fries. They're paratroopers now. Good golly almighty. That was a big one. That was a big sneeze, folks. That was a big sneeze. Big sneeze, lots and lots of spices are hitting my nose.